So now you're calling for unity.
I am calling for unity.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
Would have been nice before the election.
He won. Look, he won.
And the other thing I thought was funny that you said was when you said, hey, look, I want Trump to succeed. You know who that sounds like? It sounds like a Democrat. It sounds like a Democrat saying,
well,
you know
what?
what?
The Democrats sound like that.
Well, of course you want Trump to succeed. You're a Republican.
Hey, look, I'm a conservative Republican. I'm a free market, limited government.
No, but you know what I'm saying? That's who I hear.
Yeah, but my brand of conservatism doesn't always overlap with Trump populism.
I understand, but it was binary. But you know, we argued about that.
I know we argued. I don't know.
Binary all along. It was always binary. And a vote not for Trump was a vote for Kamala Harris. Can you imagine?
I know you want to get back to this. Huh? Here's the point. A lot of this agenda, my kind of conservatism, Trump populism, it overlaps.
Okay.
We disagree on trade and things like that. I'm not with trade fights on China, but I'm not a big fan of all the tariffs on our allies. But the point is, all this other stuff, the tax policy, the border policy, the deregulatory policy, very good for America, very good for the economy.
Don't sacrifice the good for the perfect.
It only gets done if Republicans stay unified. And I think it's important that Republicans stay unified.
Okay.
Did you miss him?
No, I mean, the guy's a douche. Who cares about this fucking guy? The country has moved on away from this leader of the rhino herd, but they have now found nowhere for them to go. Like, where does, not just him, where does Liz Cheney go? Separate from her legal problems, whatever she is, where does old man Cheney go? He can't go roam around with the Democrats. They're out of power. He can't come knocking on the door like this douche is trying to do. To get some sort of an offering, they've bet on the wrong horse, and now you got to get out of the stadium.
Oh, I just love that when he was like, "Yeah, it would have been helpful before the election."
Yeah, that was nice. That guy's pretty good. I don't know. That's the business guy. He's pretty harsh.
Oh yeah. He calls these people out, and you can tell Paul Ryan did not like it at all.
Paul Ryan should not be on that show. I mean, they've got enough muscle to get on TV and do this stuff. Unlike Mike Turner, who may not have a job after today.
Well, dude, that's Fox Business. So
yeah, that's Fox Business.
In mind.
Yeah.
It's not really MAGA friendly.
Did you see the Space Force guy, the guy with the jacket on, talking about how the CIA is going to destroy Trump and they're going to stop him from getting elected on election day? It's a hair-raising clip by a guy wearing a Space Force jacket with a stocking hat on, and his name was Duran. It's on his jacket. I mean, if this guy's not picked up for questioning, then anybody could do anything they want. I mean, this guy was literally saying there's going to be a coup d'etat, and I know when it's coming on Monday. And,
well, coincidentally, hold on. The inauguration on Monday has suddenly been changed to indoors because of the cold weather. So they're not necessarily stupid. They may be like, oh, well, would you look at that? Now it's indoors. Everybody's being shuttled over here. Trump will be by the rotunda. I think it might actually be smart. It's going to screw over a lot of people, and he's not going to have the mass 200,000 people. But Joe Neerman got his ticket to go. I guess they have 200,000 inauguration tickets.
Wow.
And the place where they're going to send everybody has 20,000 seats. So that should go really well.
Dude, the whole thing is the last thing I want to do is go to that. Now, they may be putting him inside for security reasons, which is what I think.
That's what I'm thinking they're doing.
But also the counter move will be he was never sworn in as president. They're going to say the photos are fake. No, Eric, please. How long have you been doing this, Eric?
All right. Well, you know what?
Eric,
as long
you're
as he
telling me
there,
that they're going to go along with this on the left. They're going to say it was a secret thing. He was never sworn in. You could already write your own script.
I know, and they're already going to have idiots Code Pink running in there like the Hegseth thing, going, I'm sure there'll be stupid people getting away, running in there. But I want to at least see him cross the finish line here, folks.
Yeah.
I mean, good God.
How many days? Is there anything more that Biden can do to undermine the smooth transition of power that he wouldn't shut up about for 2 years? There aren't enough hours in the day for him to undermine the Trump administration more than he's actually been doing, in my humble opinion.
Well, I've got a new name for him, the commuter in chief.
how many people are going to be left after this? What did they commute today? 2,500?
2,500, but they're complaining because that was 2,500 cracks prisoners. Now all the marijuana prisoners will say, whoa, what about us, man? You're supposed to commute us. So what is that? And the part that really annoys me is everybody's like, these nonviolent, blah, blah, blah people. The truth is, those are deals that they worked down. These are not like, oh my God, they caught with one joint and they've been in there for
They have that thing drilled into their Cheech and Chong minds that there are people in federal prison who had one joint and they're serving 20 to life. It's an amazing piece of propaganda. It doesn't die. This urban myth just lives on and on and on. What Eric is talking about is the fact that the ones who are in jail for drug offenses are the ones that pled down from 80 billion pounds of coke being brought in on a ferry boat from Peru to this thing. That's the ones who are doing federal time. Not somebody who had a joint, not somebody, a college kid with a grand. But Mark, you don't understand. My cousin Bobby knew a guy named Tommy who went to a bar and he once had a thing and a bop at the bar. That's not who these people are. And what Eric is saying is correct. Did he commute 2,500 of them, Eric?
Yeah. 2,500. Well, no, but I mean, there's more to come, Mark. I mean, got a long weekend here.
No, I know. You got to understand the checks have to clear. And Barnes has talked about this. This is a complete pay-to-play operation, usually minimized at this level. But of course, with this family, it's maximized. So you're now got every Tom, Dick, and Harry throwing down to get some sort of reduction, commutation, or parole from the Biden crime family. Now, cutouts will be paid. I don't know and how the waterfall effect will get back to the Biden crime family, but I guarantee you it will.
Oh, yeah. And I like what Barnes said on Sunday. I was like, oh, duh, that's right. He can't do all the pardons for the family until Sunday night. Now, not too late because obviously sundowners, but about 6 p.m. Sunday is the deadline for get all your crimes done, folks, and then I'll sign the pardon.
Well, I'll give an example. Is it possible that a guy who stands to make $30 million in insurance money for his burned paintings in Malibu may have committed arson to burn his own paintings? I know that sounds preposterously insane to people, but Hunter Biden now stands to get a check for $30 million from State Farm Insurance for his paintings that burned up in the Malibu fire. If I was Hunter Biden and a crack-headed mental case, I would torch my own paintings to get $30 million the last 3 days of my parents' administration.
Well, absolutely. If there happens to be wildfires going at the time.
Yeah, anyway, right. Why not torch my own and get going?
Yeah, I mean, oh, no, it was looters. I mean, what do you want?
I wouldn't put it past Hunter Biden in a heartbeat, Eric.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure
what goes to what you're saying about waiting till the last minute to pardon. Well, he's already been pardoned, but the rest of them have to wait till the last minute.
Can you get a second pardon? Wait,
the addendum. The
addendum.
Wait, what date was that pardon? In November, like Thanksgiving?
Right, exactly. So it's like, right. Hold on. Hey, Dad, we got to work this out.
Yeah, Dad, I'm sorry. I know you gave me the pardon. I know. I stopped weeping, Dad. Stop it. I know. I'll put Mom on the phone. Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
You got this story we wanted to cover really quickly before the crazy people start saying we're doing clickbait on them. Regarding the guest on Alex Jones, who was the grandson of Billie Saul Estes, Steve something or other, I forget the guy's last name, came on Alex Jones for an hour and a half with this audio tape, which is about 7 minutes long, claiming that it was made in 1972 with his grandfather, Billie Saul Estes, whose episode you can watch. That we did an episode on Billie Saul Estes, and involves Mac Wallace, who surprisingly also has his own episode on America's Untold Stories. So a lot of people were hitting us up on social media about the situation, what our take was on it. Obviously, I don't have time to do a massive deep dive on this thing, but on the right is Cliff Carter, and on the left is Billie Saul Estes, and you can watch the episode on Billie Saul Estes to get the full story on Billie Saul Estes, who was a con man, a swindler, involved with numerous con schemes, involved with crimes that overlapped at times with the LBJ crime scandals. He kicked back to LBJ's people, which you had to do in that region. At one point, he was worth, I want to say, like $20 million, Billie Saul Estes, and it involved phony grain being stored in silos. It leads to the murder of Henry Marshall. And Henry Marshall was an agricultural investigator. The agriculture department was a place for LBJ to put his cronies. He had took that one department of the government and owned it, put every single person who had any connection to his crime operations into that's Henry Marshall, right?
Yeah.
So Henry Marshall was an investigator for the Department of Agriculture out of DC, and he came out to Texas, and he went and looked in these grain silos that were supposed to be filled up with grain that the government was paying people not to go to market for various price points and things of that nature. And the grain silos were empty. And they were empty because of Billie Saul Estes. He had sold them 10 times or whatever Billie Saul was doing. There's a great song about Billie Saul Estes that was written, I think. But now that I remember, the legendary Phil Oakes, who ended up in a tragic end to his own life. But Billie Saul Estes was a legend in that area of Texas for being a con man and a swindler. Okay. When he got out of prison, interestingly enough, he had a lawyer the first time named John Cofer. And John Cofer was given to him as a lawyer by the LBJ people. And Cofer was the lawyer that LBJ actually used in 1948 when he was legally challenged for the 1948 Senate election. That's Cofer on the left, and that's Billie Saul on the right, I presume. Cofer also becomes the lawyer provided by LBJ to Mac Wallace in the first-degree murder trial of the golf pro that Mac Wallace killed on the golf course, and gets off after a guilty verdict through LBJ's connection. So John Cofer ends up being Billie Saul's attorney, and Billie Saul is told, that's Mac Wallace being led in by Texas authorities after
Cofer over his shoulder.
That I can't see that small, but this is when he was arrested. He did try to flee, Mac Wallace. He was apprehended after the murder. It was about the dating and sexual relations between both of them with LBJ's sister, who was a bipolar, alcoholic woman who may or may not have been a prostitute. That's still some debate. But the reality of it, there she is. This is Josefa. This is like old home week. So anyway, so John Cofer comes on the scene to defend Billie Saul Estes, and he tells Billie Saul, don't worry, it's in the bag. But it's not in the bag. And Billie Saul gets sent to Leavenworth. I think he was sentenced to 8 to 15, Billie Saul, in 1964. And he does some hard time up in there, and he gets out and he goes to a second stint to go to prison again because he begins embezzling and swindling when he gets out again. Okay. Billie Saul tried to make a deal with a French assassination author, try to shake him down for $100,000. And I believe that was in the late 90s. This book here by a guy named William Raymond. With Billie Saul obviously trying to get money after being in prison. But we'll get back to that in a second. The first part of it is that he gets out of prison, and the time that the grandson says that he gets out of prison is 1972, says his grandfather got out in March of 72. This is with Alex Jones, which is the only thing I could go on is the Alex Jones interview with him, because I've never heard of this guy before. So he says his grandfather got out in 1972. He said his uncle, who was the brother of Billie Saul Estes, gave him these microcassette tapes. Years later, the uncle dies. Billie Saul doesn't die until 2013. The uncle lives a little longer and gives the kid these microcassette tapes, which is odd because it's kind of when they came out in the 70s, late 60s, whatever. But nevertheless, the tapes, as he describes them, are microcassette tapes. There's different ones. And in there is a conversation, we're alleged to believe, between Cliff Carter, who was the right-hand man of LBJ. Cliff Carter, a war hero. You can get into Cliff Carter all you want, but there's really no dirt on Cliff Carter. He's kind of clean, and he was the real closest guy to LBJ. And in that conversation, there's Cliff. I mean, Clifton Carter. He was his right-hand man and kind of above reproach. However, in this conversation, which is not that long, supposedly on the porch of Billie Saul's house, that they both know they're being taped. It's not a phone conversation. They're physically sitting on the porch. We know that because at the end, Billie Saul says, let's go in and have some coffee into the house. And so they're both watching a tape recorder going around.
It would have to be because he was on probation. He couldn't exactly.
No. Right. So he says he gets out in March in 72. And unfortunately, part of the story doesn't add up because Cliff Carter dies September 23, 1971. LBJ will die January 1973. And Billie Saul, despite what his grandson said, was released at the end of 1971 from prison. So
July 12th, he was paroled.
July 12th, 71, right. Okay. Right. So the kid says it's 1972, but he could get the year wrong. But anyway, Cliff Carter is dead within 2 months. And at one point in the tape, Billie Saul says, well, Daryl, I sure do appreciate you coming over. He calls him Daryl at one point in the tape, which I thought was a little bizarre. And then they mention Henry Marshall. The Cliff Carter part says that LBJ ordered Mac Wallace to kill Kennedy, and he's really loyal. Cliff Carter is to LBJ, but he's never going to be able to live this down. It's so on the nose, to be honest with you, that it seems far-fetched, Eric. It's really, that's the real beef that when I listen to it, the idea that somebody would put this on tape, as smooth as Cliff Carter was, a DC veteran of incredible amount of time, would simply go over to a felon's house who's just gotten out of Leavenworth and put this on tape, to me, is an impossibility. But who knows? Maybe Cliff Carter said, I've got terminal cancer. He did die young. He had a heart condition. He died of pneumonia, mysteriously at 53. I don't know about mysteriously, but people do die.
Well, no, I'm just saying it was unexpectedly. It wasn't. It was like, he's dead and 53 years old.
He lingered in a hospital. It wasn't that sudden. But the reality of it is that Cliff Carter and LBJ will soon be dead, and Billie Saul Estes will live on until 2013, when he gets out of the second time in the slammer in 1983. He goes before a grand jury and says that LBJ murdered 13 people, including JFK, and he lists the people in the grand jury indictment. They don't indict anyone claiming the grand jury because everyone involved is dead. So there's no indictment. But oddly enough, his attorney for that event is a guy named Doug Caddy. And you say, well, who is Doug Caddy? Doug Caddy was an old conservative, one of the original Goldwater Republicans, Eric, who started the Young Republicans for Freedom. Doug Caddy came out of Arizona, out of that movement. Doug Caddy is a strange choice to be the lawyer for Billie Saul Estes. Doug Caddy is sitting in a courtroom one day in D.C. when 4 or 5 men are indicted for the burglary of Watergate. He becomes the lawyer for the Watergate burglars. He's asked about it by a reporter from the Washington Post, famously in the movie that people have seen about the Watergate affair. They're on to get into Bob Woodward, but Woodward talks to Doug Caddy in the movie. Doug Caddy, Deep State Doug, will later move so far to the left that he is now considered a progressive liberal. This is a Goldwater conservative representing conservative Republicans. He's now on the board of directors of the ACLU. That's how far Doug Caddy, Deep State Doug, who is one of those lawyers that they put in.
Took the Hillary route.
Yeah. Oh no, completely. No, but it took years of public Here he is, Doug Hattie. He's a sketchy deep state lawyer. Anyway, he ends up trying to pin this thing on LBJ through Billie Estes. Now, as many people who watch the show know, I believe that LBJ was involved, of course, in the killing of JFK. So I just don't think Billie Estes has any sort of gravitas. And Jim DiEugenio, if you want to take a look at his Kennedy and King website about Billie Estes and his ability to tell the truth, that you could do that as a separate project. We don't really have time to do that today about Billie Sol. But that being said, I believe, that LBJ, of course, was involved in the assassination. I believe that Mac Wallace was involved in the assassination. I believe that Nathan Darby, the fingerprint expert, was correct when he found over 14 points of accuracy in the fingerprints on the boxes in the Texas School Book Depository of being Mac Wallace's fingerprints. I believe all of that. It doesn't make Billie Estes' interview with Cliff Carter completely the truth. However, that being said, this kid who was on the show with Alex Jones, and Alex Jones, as he admitted, probably has forgotten more about the JFK assassination than he remembers. Apparently, the kid has been shopping these tapes for 8 years. He claims that he sent them to Don Jr. He claims that he sent them to Paxton, the Attorney General of Texas. He claims that Donald Trump Sr. has listened to him. There's a lot of bold statements by this guy regarding the current administration. He also says he bought a $25,000 ticket to talk to Trump about it during a dinner 8 years ago when he was shopping these tapes. So there's a long history of these tapes. Now you wonder, what is the point? Maybe the kid wants to get a book deal. He claims to be a deacon in the church in Texas. He claims to be above reproach. He claims he wants to repair the damage to his family of the Billie Estes legend. And it's also for the good of the country. So he kind of plays it really naively when he's playing the tapes. He's like a good old boy, doesn't know shit from Shinola. Alex Jones plays a clip of Donald Sutherland talking to Kevin Costner out of the movie JFK.
Our favorite.
Yeah. So he says, I don't even know what this is. I've never even heard of this movie. And I'm going, come on, pal. I mean, it's enough already with this good old boy bullshit. Anyway, so he says that in the middle of this thing, he says there's a guy. He names a couple of names. One of them he names is Roger Stone. And Roger Stone famously wrote a book that LBJ killed Kennedy, as we know. He also mentions another guy named Barr McClelland. And Barr McClelland also wrote a book called Blood, Money, and Power. And in that book, in Blood, Money, and Power, there's Barr McClelland. Now, this is interesting because I want to get into this for 5 minutes, and then we could get on with the news. But Barr McClelland has two sons, and one of them is Mark McClelland. And I don't know if people remember his other son. His other son had a strange job. His other son was Scott McClelland, who was the press secretary for George Bush. This is the son. So the book comes out in the early 2000s, Blood, Money, and Power. He then goes on to be featured in, there's Scott. This was completely embarrassing to him and to his brother, Mark. Both of these are deep state operatives. The father's deep state. The son is the head of the FDA. This son is the press secretary to George Bush. Both of them are embarrassed that their father comes out with a book that LBJ killed Kennedy. This is Mark McClelland, the head of the FDA at the time of the Bush administration. This is stuff that Alex should have done his homework on. I'm surprised that Alex did not do the usual due diligence that Alex Jones does, but I guess he's got a lot of stuff on his table. So Barr McClelland worked for a law firm named, which was run by Edward Clark. Edward Clark was a lawyer for LBJ, and Barr McClelland, to sum up the book, says that Edward Clark was tasked by LBJ to hire Mac Wallace to kill JFK. Now, there's no footnotes in the book. There's no sightings in the book. It just seems like a bunch of almost novelesque book. So it's kind of like Barr McClelland's theory. The book was pounced upon by every single institution in the United States, which I necessarily don't really care about that much because the book is the book. He's featured in The Men Who Killed Kennedy, if people want to see it. And it's the final chapter. It's the one where Jimmy Carter comes out and denounces it. It's the one where all of the relatives of LBJ come out and denounce it. It's the one that's removed by the History Channel and a public apology by the host of the History Channel. It's absolutely, it can be bought and it can be seen on YouTube, but that's not what happened in real time. There was a huge scandal when Barr McClellan did this. And this was around 2000-ish and late 90s. And to make matters, to sum it up, I believe that Billie Estes is indeed on that tape, but I believe the other voice on that tape is Barr McClellan. That was my first instinct. As soon as I heard it, I said, that's Barr McClellan. That's not Cliff Carter. And I've listened to Cliff Carter, and that's not Cliff Carter. And I believe, and I can't swear it in open court, but my hunch is that Barr McClellan is on that tape. Why do I mention Barr McClellan? Because the grandson says Barr McClellan in the middle of the interview with Alex Jones is one of the closest members of our family. And I'm going, well, that's kind of random, son. And if you want to hear a difference in the voices, Eric has found some audio of both of them, and you can play it and try to decide if you
lost you on sound now. While you're getting the sound back, I just want to let everybody know, I tried to clean this up a little bit, but I also have the original stuff, but the original stuff has a lot of noise in the background, things like that. So I tried to use isotope and other things to sort of clean it up so you can actually hear the voices a little bit better. But I do have the original stuff. If you listen, this is the original tape. Again, I cleaned it, and it's what Alex Jones was playing. And hopefully this will start.
Today. Well, Saul, it's been a pretty touch-and-go situation. Linda has had quite a few unpleasant words here lately over the deal with the Mike Wallace to assassinate the president.
All right, that's the original from Alex Jones, what he played on there, and just so people, so they hear that.
Well, he's claiming that's Cliff Carter.
That's correct. That is who he's claiming is Cliff Carter. Now here is Barr McClellan later on by himself. Come on, hit play.
Here I am, doing just fine, thank you. One of the big whoever's new on the scene. I'm not new. I've been around, and I have been in some real good ones. And here I am, doing just fine, thank you.
Now, one thing that stood out to me, because I listened to Alex Jones' interview too, is that you hear that here I am, that little bit of a lift in his voice. Alex Jones actually even commented about, the Texas Now. In that tape, he kind of does that little high pitch thing that's going on. Now, here's a conversation with Cliff Carter. And this is
Juanita, Cliff Roberts, or Cliff Carter. All right. There you are. Hello.
Hello, Miss Juanita.
How are you?
Dolores had told me.
Let me go further here. The secretary talks more than Cliff does, so we have to grab
For the 11:30. Are you going out, or could we?
No, generally I'll be here. I just got a bunch of stuff stacked up on me here that I'm trying to get done.
Well, when you're ready, why don't you call him?
The only thing that I just wondered if maybe I could dictate a short note to you that would suffice.
All right. So,
well, anyway, you guys can listen to that on your own. I just wanted to put that out there for the people at home so we can address it. And I think
I'll upload it to locals if people want to parse it up.
You could do. I just wanted to answer the question that Alex Jones had raised about this thing, and I think there's more questions than he wanted to deal with in that interview. That being said, this guy has been shopping these tapes for 8 years, and so that's
right. And hopefully you still working on the mic because you were echoing there. Is it coming better?
I'm not
Keep talking.
anything.
Okay, that's starting to sound better. That's so weird.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, Mark is still evacuated from his home, so he'll be getting back to his normal setup soon.
Let's get back to the news, because I really, there's so much news that we don't have really time to discuss my microphone problems. This Georgia State Senator, Eric, Colton Moore, who was arrested down in Georgia, is one of the craziest things I've ever seen. I don't know if you have any video of that, but apparently he had voted against or was opposed to them naming a building after a former Georgia politician who was thoroughly like a boss hog, corrupt politician, and that got him banned from the legislature, and he couldn't enter the building again, according to the sources involved in this thing, from what I understand.
Yeah, I've heard more on it. There's no way he should have been held out from the office, but I have heard that he may have been kicked out not because of a building naming, but apparently during a funeral or a wake or a showing or whatever of a speaker. He made some pretty nasty commentary, and this is by somebody who's in that area, and he's saying that absolutely he should not have been held away like he was here. I can't show it, unfortunately. Every time we show anything that has any strife, YouTube goes and demonetizes it. Even though, so there's just barely pushing each other or whatever. But ultimately, what happens is he's trying to get in. One of the guards or whoever it is not letting him come in, seems to trip out his leg, and then he's knocked to the ground. Then they arrest him, lock him up. Now, I think Donald Trump released a short video that I saw in support of the guy, but it's Georgia's a mess. Georgia is a complete, utter mess.
Well, he represents nearly 250,000 constituents who voted for him, you know.
But no, I agree. I agree. Keep checking that microphone if you can.
I can't, Eric. I can't. I just got to keep rolling with the show. Forget about the mic. I know you told me 17 times. I agree with you. There's nothing we can do, bro. Let's just do the show. I can't just keep checking the mic. Let's just roll. Let's just roll. It is what it is. Okay, so what about the Shellenberger story? This one's crazy.
Well, what I sent you, okay, the Shellenberger.
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing story, Eric. Who is Red Panda, first of all?
Oh, I don't know who Red Panda Koala is. It just hit my timeline, so I was looking at it. But this guy is claiming in a Tubi documentary TV series that he is the one who got the whistleblower complaint that was introduced by Nancy Mace with Michael Shellenberger. Now, where this goes back is you contacted me, and we're talking on the phone. You're like, so what's up with the Shellenberger? Now he's a UAP guy? How is he the UAP guy or whatever? Well, apparently this is a UAP guy, and supposedly he had given this to Mace. Shellenberger was put up as a prop for it. This guy, I don't know what to think of him because he's a bit dramatic. If you look at his bit.
It didn't make any sense. It's real whistleblower. At the last minute, they took his documents. They gave it to Shellenberger. And at the time, I said to Eric, when did Shellenberger? There's the document handoff. He's sitting right back of Shellenberger. And I said to Eric at the time, when did Shellenberger become an expert on UFOs?
Exactly.
And in fact, they interviewed Shellenberger after this, and he doesn't know shit from Shinola. Some UFO expert grabs him in the hall and says, literally the same thing I said, when did you become an expert on UFOs? And he said, well, it's kind of a recent thing. And he bullshits the guy. Now this comes out. This guy who is the whistleblower, who has the documents and gave them to Nancy Mace and gave them, they gave them to Shellenberger, who was brought in just for this. Deep State Shellenberger is brought in just for this particular hearing and doesn't even know what he's talking about. I mean, the Shellenberger mystery, Eric, continues to grow, continues to expand in other directions. Deep State Shellenberger.
And this is who the guy is. Jeremy Corbell. Tomorrow night, I guess there's going to be a special on News Nation. He's quite respected in the UFO world, I guess. He has an entire series of 6 episodes, again on Tubi TV, that he's doing. Yeah. And he's got 4 names. He's like, for a second, I thought it was James Corbett, but it's like Jeremy such and such and such and such.
Yeah. Yeah. But he's been around for years. But Shellenberger has not been around for years. No. And all of a sudden he's becoming and when the drone situation happened, all of a sudden Shellenberger had to like get involved with the drone story, and he really didn't have any answers for the drone story, nor did he have any take on it. The whole thing about Shellenberger is a mystery. It really is. Shelley Shellenberger, who is his father's ex-CIA, lives up in Wisconsin, allegedly his father. People are disputing that whether that's his dad or not. I'm not really sure, but it certainly looks like him. Anyway, we just wanted to show that. It just came on. I came over the thing, and Eric sent me that. It's just fascinating. And this guy, of course, the whistleblower, is embittered because he got boxed out, and he's the one that wrote the report. Yep. Imagine you wrote something and they give it to this other guy, and he blames. Wow, I mean, I'd have a heart attack too. Yeah,
and it's like, and that was Nancy Mace, and she's supposed to be kind of one of the good ones. But, and she had her own little spot of trouble. I don't know if you saw that, where she wanted to take it outside with Jasmine or something like that, another congressperson.
Dude, really that Mike Turner being ousted from the Intelligence Committee by Mike Johnson, that was one of the best signs I've seen in months and months and months of fighting back against the intel community. Holy crap. He was blindsided. There was no discussion, which is the way you're supposed to do it. They did it right by the book. Don't talk about it. Don't let him go on Meet the Press beforehand. Get him out of there. And that's what Mike Johnson did. And kudos to Johnson and Trump for getting this intel community guy out of there.
Yeah, we didn't expect that from Johnson.
No. Now you don't have the Space Force guy, do you?
I do not.
Oh, okay, don't worry about it. Now, because we were talking about the CIA, that was the Shellenberger thing. We talked about Hunter Biden. Now, what is this thing with Vivek? He's going to run for governor now.
Well, okay, that's been rumored. We have a couple of, Ohio natives who follow this pretty tightly. And it's been long talked about whether Vivek would get the Senate seat or if he was just going to come around and then run for governor, because the current governor is being termed out. And now the governor, I think, made the decision for him because he just promoted the lieutenant governor into the senator spot. So he's going to give the senator seat to the lieutenant governor, who's like his buddy. Right. And now Vivek is going to come in and actually run for governor.
DeWine, you're talking about, who's a rhino.
Correct. I'm sorry, DeWine.
Yeah. Okay, so there'll be other candidates besides Vivek, I assume, right?
I imagine so. I mean, this is just coming across the line. I don't even know if he's officially announced it, but Fox is saying, everybody is saying it. They're like, he is doing it.
Okay,
I don't. He has directly said.
Is he born and raised there? Like, where is he's from? Yes, there,
he's
right?
He was born and raised in Ohio.
Okay, so that's promising.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's like, well, is this going to distract you from Doge?
That's a good point.
Yeah, he has a current job.
That. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Wow, that's weird. Will he Doge himself, and see what's going on up in Ohio?
Yeah, I mean, I wish him all the luck. I think that if he could pick up governorship, he's a very talented young politician. I think we both agree on that.
That's a good job. It's a big state. I mean, he could do a lot of good in Ohio. Certainly, Ohio needs it.
Yeah, and in 8 years, he could be set up perfectly for VP. He'll have some more gravitas, and then we can see if he continues to be MAGA over these next 8 years.
Okay, so we have a ruling. We have a ruling on TikTok, and this broke this afternoon, Eric. We may want to cover the TikTok
this morning
situation. The Supreme Court that apparently never misses an opportunity to weigh in on some corporate stories when they miss every opportunity to weigh in on an election story, has weighed in and upheld the congressional law banning TikTok from the United States ownership.
9-0.
9-0, which is rare. This was a no-brainer, I think. Trump trying to head off the runaway freight train at the last minute. There was no chance on earth that this was ever going to happen. And he is now claiming he loves TikTok. And again, it's not about the content of TikTok. People really have to get their minds around this. It's about the ownership of TikTok and being owned by the Chinese Communist Party. The same thing with Zoom. This is what the security leak was because of TikTok's ownership, right, Eric?
Yes, that's the issue. It is a foreign-owned company. ByteDance, a Chinese company, owns it. Zoom doesn't fly because the owner is an American citizen, so you're hosed on that, and I think it's publicly traded. But TikTok is a foreign company, and their argument about free speech doesn't fly so well because, well, China doesn't have free speech in the United States.
No.
Not technically. And then you have security concerns. And the thing is that how many times have I griped and said, we can't keep having executive orders. You need laws. Yep. Well, in this case, Congress wrote a law. And that's their job, is to write laws. And Supreme Court kind of looked at it and they said, well, we got little problems here and there, but it's not enough to declare it unconstitutional. So, yeah, it stands. That you can do that. And
I didn't know what Trump was trying to pull off, but.
Well, he loves TikTok because it helped him with the election. I mean, right. That is true. But ironically, same with Biden. Biden also doesn't want it taken down now, but okay. And TikTok, well, ByteDance refuses to sell it. They're saying, screw you. So I think Sunday you're going to have a lot of teenagers, screaming at their parents. So it's going to be interesting.
Well, they already have shown the influencers weeping nonstop all day on the internet. The people who are crying because that was their main income, and you can't really blame them.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't like it if we got thrown. I can relate absolutely.
No, I understand. I mean, they've had clearly enough warning though. Legally, because of the law that you're referring to, they have enough.
I know, but what do you do though? I mean, the influencers are kind of screwed. It's so hard to build a new audience. Yeah, I know a lot of them have probably gone to YouTube to try to build shorts, to do this, to do that.
Okay, I mean,
it takes a lot.
Right. Frank McCourt has offered to buy it. There's other TikTok offers to buy it. And in theory, I guess, if they did buy it, you would still have TikTok. Mr. Beast is a guy. He's another guy who's on it.
Yeah, he says collected some billionaires to buy TikTok. Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe that'll save TikTok.
If it's American owned,
right? I think that's the only problem. It's the only problem is selling it to an American owner, right? I don't see why that's a hurdle that's too high.
Or an ally. I mean, like if some bought it, I'm sure it'd be fine too. But essentially, no.
Who should buy it is that guy. The guy who owns the LA Times. That guy is coming around so fast. That doctor, Chinese heritage. I mean, that guy is really moving to the middle and to the right so quickly.
Did you see him on Two-Way? They had him on for a full interview. He's a very interesting guy.
Dude, I mean, the guy's a fascinating guy.
He really is. I thought his bit about cancer was absolutely fascinating, that we have a gene supposedly that can fight cancer that gets killed by chemotherapy. And his statements about how, they code up to get profits. That's some really interesting stuff.
He's invented a lot of technology, medical technology. That's how he made his billions. But now the newspaper is moving rapidly towards the middle. It's shocking. Really shocking.
Yeah, and I like, his stance is that it's not a newspaper. He sees it as an outlet. I forgot how he described it, but he's kind of trying to turn it into a hub, and even talking about collecting medical records there.
Interesting. That's interesting.
Right. But
now speaking of medical records, they are talking about the banning of anesthesia gas. In the operating room. Did you know this? I sent you a little piece on it. The climate change activists are demanding, and the bill is already. Oh no! It's way past your time, Hunley. This thing is moving at lightning speed to ban anesthesia. The gases, of course, go up into the ozone and destroy the Earth as we know it. And this would go for pets too. I mean, this is not just for people in surgery. This would go for pets and other things. It's the anesthetic gases they claim are damaging the ozone.
Lovely. I'm sorry.
You can't make this up. You can't make this up. So insane.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? While we have something that you can't make up, I know I sent this one to you. Let's see what people interpret off of this surveillance video of vote counting in California, your hometown. You remember how you said you don't like they keep counting until they find the votes? Well, let's watch this individual. It is the woman with the long hair. There's ample arrows.
You have to have the arrows. Yeah.
Well, in case the music gets claimed. Okay, keep the eye. There's a pile. She just set a pile down there. I love the arrows. This is great. Helps
the arrows are great. Yeah.
Okay, so now, count. Okay, man, she's pulling the stuff, whatever. Okay, oh, let me go back to that pile right there. Okay, got that pile. Oh, that pile looks pretty good.
Oh, Hunley.
Here we go. Hold on. Oh, let me go that first pile.
Okay. Oh, look at. I'm going to put it all through again.
Yep. Here we go. Oh, look at that.
Make sure it gets counted. Will it fit?
Yep. Oh, look at that.
Oh my.
Hold on. It gets better.
It's a beautiful count.
It gets better.
Yes, I found some more.
Keep watching. Yeah. Here we go. Got it out. Like the results. Oh, I got to work on the machine. What's going on here?
She's cleaning it.
Yes, absolutely. Now she's got to adjust it. Okay. And let's see here. Well, would you look at that?
Come on, shove it in there. Go ahead, get it in there.
Get those counts up.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what that is. Maybe they'll respond to it. But
I'm sure that the answer will be that no, the machine wasn't actually counting. I kept trying to run it. That's why I was trying to clean it, is because I couldn't do it. Or I like this. Somebody pointed out, and they said, no, it's party flyers.
Party flyers for the post-election party for Kamala Harris that never really took off. Now, there was other news that Trump made out in California yesterday. He appointed a commission, an advisory board, a triumvirate of 3 men who are going to advise him on Hollywood. And this, I did not see this coming. This is brilliant. It's John Voight, the legendary actor and father of you-know-who was a star of Midnight Cowboy and everything else. Sylvester Stallone, Rocky, and Mel Gibson are now going to advise him on the inner workings and destruction of Hollywood and how to make Hollywood great again. I believe part of this is this is just my interpretation, is going to be about getting China out of Hollywood, which is, I think, what Trump is trying to do with these guys. So here's the article. All 3 of them, let's get back to the golden age of Hollywood: Stallone, Gibson, and John Voight. Gibson, with great sense of humor, lost his house, sadly, in the Palisades fire, said, "I hope this is an ambassadorial level job that comes with a residence." It's a great line by Mel Gibson. Brilliant
was when his house burned down.
I don't know.
He was on Joe Rogan while his house was burning down.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Well, what's he going to do? I mean, it's better than Dennis Quaid, who was being ambushed by a reporter from Channel 11 while his house is on fire. I mean, there seems to be no boundaries. But there was a real estate agent today from Brentwood who was on TMZ, and he was talking about everyone selling their dirt below their house that doesn't have a house anymore. And he kind of was parroting what I said last week on the show, that they're selling the land parcels as quickly as possible to get out. They're not going to go back. They're all moving. This guy, maybe you could play a little bit if you pick up later on, like in the
just over a minute, somewhere. You said?
Yeah.
And we'll start there.
Yeah, there was somewhere in there. Okay.
It's tough because picture you living on a street. You're the first house finished, and every other house on the street is in construction.
Yeah.
Think about that. You don't want to do that. You want to wake up every single morning and be reminded of that.
Right. It's traumatic.
I'm negotiating almost a dozen deals right now on land in the Palisades, much faster than I ever thought I would be doing. People are already trying to sell their dirt, knowing that they're not going to go back there, to home builders that will then build their house and either keep it or sell it.
So because obviously some people with the Woolsey fire, this could be their second time rebuilding with Malibu and stuff like that.
It's disheartening.
Who's going to move to the Palisades, or are we going to see that city kind of?
The calls that I've got have been across the board of, I'm 70 years old. I just evacuated for my last time. I'm out. I'm never going back.
Where are they going?
Okay, that was the Palisades. So they're either going locally, or because of they're fed up with the regulations and government, they're out. California, and if they're not and they're out of LA, they're going down to Newport Beach.
Oh,
yeah, I'm getting a huge amount of calls from people who want to move down to Orange County.
Really?
Yeah. Majority of the people.
Yeah, so I mean, this is what we talked about on the show last week. I didn't know this guy or anything, but it was just obvious to me what's going to happen here. They're going to flip the land, different brokers. No one's going to build on it. It's going to take 1 year to clear the debris, according to Los Angeles County, because they have to bring in special toxic environmental debris clearers. And the clearing of the debris itself is going to take possibly up to a year for each parcel.
Yeah.
So that being said, these people are now being approached by brokers. Oh, there we are. Anyway, so this guy was just summing it up, and he's a guy who's in the field doing this, taking these phone calls. So these people want to get out. There's really no alternative because they can't really build there. I mean, you've got this open field, you've got a lot, you're going to start building, and what are you going to look at? You're going to look at Hiroshima out your window, for years? I mean, it's crazy.
Well, especially he said 70 years old. I mean, we're not talking about
people have been there for 50 years. Yeah, they've been there.
No, I'm saying you're at your twilight years. Do you want to spend your last 10 years dealing with it?
No, they're going to buy a condo. They're going to buy a condo in Newport or Huntington Beach or down by Dana Point. That's going to be the end of it. The point I was trying to make was the state is going to try to move in quickly and buy this at some point in the chain of turnovers. The state is going to come in.
I keep hoping your sound will just work, but you cut out completely and then goes back and cuts out.
Let's talk about what's his face.
Well, I showed you this before the show. I don't know if you wanted to comment on this. You mentioned Trump was meeting with those guys for Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
He also met with this guy.
Have you met with Donald Trump since the election?
Yeah, I had a chance to go have a long and actually quite intriguing dinner with him.
What did you discuss? What was intriguing?
Well, we touched on a lot of things. It was over 3 hours. To my surprise, it was, just he and I, his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, and the person who helps manage things for me, Larry Cohen. So the four of us sat there, and it was quite wide-ranging. Global health's the area that I work in, and such amazing things have happened and can happen there. I spoke a lot about HIV and that the foundations literally work.
I can only watch him so long. That is
I know. It's the point is he's trying to get out of being indicted and being named on the Epstein list, and he's trying to keep it secret, and he's got his own agenda, I presume, Eric, and that's why he's there. It's amazing how these oligarchs, as Biden calls them, keep showing up at Trump's door begging for forgiveness and mercy. The oligarchs that used to work with Joe Biden in his oligarch intelligence complex speech the other day, which was really crazy. That thing went off the rails very quickly, Eric, where he started talking about the internet industrial complex and these oligarchs, and all of whom backed him when he started. But since they've left, they're now oligarchs. Before they were, he gave a medal to the biggest one in the world, George Soros, 2 days ago.
Two. Because the other one was
the oligarch. I mean, their gaslighting is breathtaking in its chutzpah. I just can't understand how they continue to attempt these gaslighting, the sky is yellow, things that happened 5 seconds ago. It really is shocking. Somebody has to do a study just on the gaslighting part of it, you know, of how long you can wait till gaslighting takes effect. You know, can it be 5 minutes, Eric? Can it be 5 years? I mean, this thing, he gave George Soros a medal 2 minutes ago.
I agree. And he gave Bill Gates a medal also in this past weekend. Somebody was being confirmed. I don't remember which position it was. I saw the clip of it. Bernie Sanders was saying, our president said that about these oligarchs and billionaires and people who have unwanted money. So, and the guy was perfect. He was just like, I don't understand. He just didn't. The president just give 2 medals of freedom to billionaires last week.
It's shocking. It really is shocking.
Trying to change the subject as quick as he could.
This guy cannot leave fast enough. I mean, he is going to milk every single minute out of his presidency as they're driving him to the swearing in. He'll be doing stuff. I swear to God. This guy cannot let go of the reins of power.
I agree, but you know, back to Bill Gates just a little bit because we were there.
Yeah. Okay.
Dick Durbin was talking about the Gates Foundation has been a key partner in improving health outcomes both around the world and here at home. Today, I met with Bill Gates to discuss the need for continued investments. Blah 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 blah.
That Bill Gates is lobbying Congress night and day to prevent the disclosure of that list. And why is it that the Senate, you know, and good for Senator Blackburn to try to get it out, but then Dick Durbin comes over the top and says, no, we're not going to release the names. I don't care about the list itself, but if release the names, right? What the hell are the House Republicans doing?
Anyway,
yeah, he's right. He's right. I can't wait till this guy gets in there. This may be the best pick of all. You know, I mean, not the best. I mean, the one that's going to have the biggest impact on the country may be the Kash Patel FBI one, if handled correctly. He seems to have no other gear, Kash Patel, which is great. He doesn't have a lower gear. Tulsi Gabbard now, of course, you know, walking back many of her political stances, making a lot of MAGA people very nervous. But Kash Patel apparently not buckling, Eric.
Not so far. And of course, he's impactful because you have to consider who's he following? Jim Comey, Christopher Wray, Kash Patel. It's kind of like the old joke about Wheel of Fortune to Jeopardy. You're going from kindergarten to college in an hour.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that questioning of what's his name, Burgum, who I think he's Secretary of Treasury,
Interior,
the former governor of the Dakotas,
right? Yeah, I think
when she came out from Hawaii, the brain dead senator of Hawaii, asking him if he's assaulted women and sexually abused them. That was the craziest thing I've ever heard.
She did that with Hegseth.
No, but Hegseth, at least there was rumors of these type of things. She did the same thing with this guy. There's not even a hint of scandal in this guy's life.
Well, I mean, okay. First off, yes.
I mean, you could start off with anybody and do that.
Well, that's what she was doing, and Tim Kaine was scurrilous when he did that with Hegseth because he did that whole routine. I have to say that the entire confirmation process, really looking at it, it's kind of just bullshit. If you think about it, they're out there on the dog and pony show.
Here's an idea. It's done behind closed doors, off camera. Not a public hearing, closed hearings. Closed hearings.
I don't even know.
Ask whatever you want. No. You have advising consent. You have to have it. It's in the Constitution. But there's no word that says it has to be done on CNN and in public with cameras. There's plenty of stuff done behind closed doors in closed session, and I think that's where there should be.
Okay. What I'm saying is that I don't really think that there is an advise and consent because everything is so freaking polarized. It's just a matter of, do you have enough votes to crush them or not? And everything that they're saying.
Well, I mean, people literally can theoretically switch their votes, hearing stuff that they didn't know. So, yeah. I mean, it has happened.
It has, but it is rare. And they have gotten to the point now, again, let me finish it out. Hegseth, for example, was very good about never answering yes or no. All of them have been trained no, yes or no. They're solid on that. Then you have the senators are busy grandstanding. These guys who are not going to answer yes or no questions any direction. See, at both sides, and what do we fall back to? Do you have the votes or not?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, obviously, in real pragmatic terms, that is correct. I mean, but, did Nixon have the votes in the Watergate committee? Initially, he did not. And then the votes were against him eventually. It wasn't there to begin with. I mean, there's plenty of historical episodes where they did not have the votes and voting changed over time over the hearings. I'm just saying this should be done behind closed doors to remove the circus-like atmosphere that it is occurring now, where the Democrats are just setting their hair on fire, Eric, apparently. I mean, those questions are insane. That Pam Bondi thing, where he told her, she said she's going to look at birthright citizenship, and they were, complaining that she didn't know the law or whatever, I mean, it's just crazy. It's just a cat and mouse game, obviously.
Well, and Bondi was funny. I mean, Bondi did a really good job of pushing back. But yeah, I think the exchange you're talking about there is when she said, "I'm sorry, I wasn't doing your homework last night."
No, there was one where she said, "I'm going to look into the legality of birthright citizenship."
Right. Well, that's why he said the 14th Amendment. She said, "I'm not doing your homework last night. Do you know?" It was Schiff, I think. Do you know what the 14th Amendment is? That's what she said. I'm not doing your homework here. And then, of course I know. That's what I was trying to say. She's like, of course I know what the 14th Amendment is. And yes, you're talking about it for birthright citizenship. I'm going to be looking into that.
Right.
And he also was trying to trap her about every other thing. And she's like, I haven't looked into it. I haven't been in the office. Nothing has been put before me. It won't be put before me.
I think Schiff was much more compliant, and knowing that the votes are the votes. Schiff seemed to be the only normal person up there who realized the ship has sailed. The rest of them were fighting like they could win this thing. Schiff seemed resigned. He seemed resigned to what you're saying, Adam Schiff.
Well, yeah, to a degree, I think that unless it was Marco Rubio, and then that was a love fest. I don't think Marco is going to be confirmed. I think it's going to be carried out on people's shoulders.
Carried out to the State Department, where they're going to have a barbecue in his name. And holy cow! I mean, that one makes me. I said it again. That one makes me the most nervous of all the appointees. Is Rubio to state?
I know.
So what's going to happen on Monday? Let's say there's a disruption on Monday. Have you thought this through?
I don't think much is going to happen. I know you're expecting major violence. I think it'll be relatively.
No. I think it's too cold for violence.
No, that's a good thing. That's a blessing.
That's a blessing, but I think there may be other weird things happening. I mean, I don't know what I don't know.
Well, yes, and I won't know. Sure.
Yeah.
Well, but speaking of that and his safety, what do you think of the new Secret Service pick?
Oh, it's his right-hand guy. It was his number one
head of his
agent,
detail.
Right? Yeah,
the head
that's
of
a
his
good
detail.
pick. I mean, gotta have somebody. That would be a good pick. He seems to know this guy and trust this guy. He's lived with the guy, quote unquote, intimately for a long period of time. So I think that's a good thing, right?
I think it's a good thing. And then if there's questions of leadership, technically that's his detail lead. So at a minimum, he is a leader of a detail. Now, that's not the same as running a giant organization, but you could delegate deputy chiefs, things like that. Put people around him who are good at mass organizations, but being able to trust the Secret Service has to be the
trust is the main thing. Trust is the main thing. Yeah, I think you could figure out the administration later. I think he's got to be comfortable with someone who is going to go around with him for 4 years, Eric.
Right, and hopefully someone who knows who's good, who's not, to clean house. I mean, I haven't seen what Bongino thinks about the pick. I didn't know.
I have not. I have not. I know that Bongino doesn't want to get involved physically himself.
Oh, no.
People keep saying that he
has health
issues. He's got health issues. He's got a mega social media footprint that he deals with on a daily basis, and he's got other fish to fry. He's paid his dues. Let me just put it that way. He doesn't need to reapply to the same agency he started from. But it's going to be interesting. Moving it inside on Monday is going to be interesting. The hostages released, I think it's going to be timed exactly like Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan. It's going to be the same thing. Very similar overtones to the Iranian hostage crisis. But of course, in this case, Biden taking credit, not even acknowledging that they're waiting till the last minute of his administration to do this deal. They acknowledged they would release the weapons today, that there's a ceasefire. Thank you for your help. Thank you, sir. One of the worst allies of Israel that Israel's ever had on the American side. Did you see when Max Blumenthal got hauled out of the State Department meeting with Tony Blinken? Tony Blinken was doing his goodbye State Department, and Max Blumenthal was in there, and he stood up and started yelling he should be in the International Court in The Hague as a war criminal, and they dragged him out during the live event with another guy, Blumenthal and sidekick.
Oh,
yeah, some great video of Blumenthal getting arrested.
So I guess he went to our young, was it Isaac school?
Yeah, I mean, he claims Blumenthal's bitterness is that this could have happened on October 8th when the Israelis retaliated a ceasefire, and not the last day of the Biden administration. So he's bitter that the Gazan Hamas got their asses kicked by a professional army, and he doesn't like that, Blumenthal. So he's bitter and said Tony Blinken was a war criminal for as part of that bitterness.
Yeah, I mean, I have no love for Tony Blinken, but I'm not going to.
No, neither do I. Either do I. But I'm just saying he was screaming at the top of it. He's very good at getting arrested, Blumenthal. I got to tell you, he's very dramatic.
He seems like the type. All right, let's go through some super chats. Grandpa gifted 10 America's Untold Stories memberships, which is very, very helpful. And look who's back. Dick Dickerson came in with 20 America's Untold Stories memberships, which we appreciate.
I want to acknowledge, while we're doing this, the passing of David Lynch, one of the great American directors that people know about. Lynch's work, Twin Peaks, of course. My favorite, Elephant Man, 1980, which was produced by Mel Brooks and Anne Bancroft, if I remember correctly. Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive, one of the great art films of 2001. Of course, Blue Velvet was considered one of his most revered works. David Lynch was a strange guy. I mean, he smoked nonstop until his death. He was on an oxygen tank. He had died of emphysema. He opened up a meditation place where he was selling mantras to people for tens of thousands of dollars. There's a lot of interesting things about David Lynch that a lot of people don't realize.
What's that? Meditation? Didn't he have like a weird meditation van?
He had a transcendental meditation center. No, not just a van. He had a van, but I mean, he had a place that they built he meditation and sold mantras for tens of thousands of dollars, secret mantras, which is the much more fascinating thing to me. Mulholland Drive, Twin Peaks, yeah. Interesting man. Very interesting. Loves smoking, could not stop smoking. There's thousands of people leaving stuff right now at Bob's Big Boy in Burbank, where they have the statue of Bob's Big Boy, where David Lynch would go for.
All right, well, we get that. Hopefully,
I remember correctly, for a cup of coffee and a chocolate milkshake every day, a celebration of Lynch over there. I don't know.
Was that an influence?
But I would. Eraserhead is probably the college cult film that got everybody into David Lynch. Was Eraserhead.
Oh, Eraserhead. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That coffee and stuff. Twin Peaks. A lot of people might remember him from the TV series Twin Peaks, and that kind of had that oddball coffee and donut that he had. It had such an interesting Americana.
Well, like I said, every day, Bob's Big Boy in Burbank. You could go over there now. There's a lot of fans outside of Bob's Big Boy in Burbank right now, commemorating the passing of David Lynch, who never met a cigarette he didn't like. But yeah, I mean, big in the 80s and then has a resurgence in the early 2000s with a bunch of different films that were thrillers, Lost Highway and a bunch of others. Interesting man. Will be missed from the Hollywood scene for sure. But that being said, there's a guy named Peter Berg who's doing, I don't know if people know who Peter Berg is. He's another Hollywood
Friday
director.
Night Lights.
Yeah, the Friday Night Lights, but Peter Berg has done a little more work than that. He's got a thing called American Primeval that I think you'll like, Eric. It is about the Mormons moving out to take over or start their operation in Utah. And it is violent as all hell. The Mormons have their own militias that are running around. You've got the Shoshones out there. It is one of the most historically accurate, violent depictions of the American West I've ever seen on screen. It's episodic. It is on Netflix. It came out last week. Everyone's going crazy over this. I've watched 2 episodes. Forewarned, it is extremely Sam Peckinpah level violence with Indians and soldiers and regular Americans. And the theme is the Mormons and how they're fighting to create their own world. And it is absolutely riveting. Highly recommended.
Okay, well, I think that the Mormons to this day in Mexico, for example, are still fighting. Like they literally fight off cartels and they're a tough people for sure.
Yeah, I recommend that one for the weekend, and one called Severance that just came on Apple TV.
That's a 3rd season, I think. Yeah.
Excuse me?
It's like 2nd or 3rd season
of Severance.
Yeah.
Oh, that I don't know, but it's got John Turturro, Christopher Walken, Patricia Arquette. Really interesting science fiction-y kind of thing. I can't even explain it. It's so complicated, but you get your head severed. You'd like this, Hunley. You get your head severed and you go to your IT job, and your IT job persona is completely separate from your real world person. And it's a complete disconnect through a brain surgery that when you go in, you just do the work all day and you don't have any memory of it. And then when you leave and go home, you're a completely separate person. It's really odd. I think you'd like it a lot.
I've heard about it.
It involves tech and it involves IT and stuff of that nature, but it's also science fiction. Very, very well shot.
Well, it's popular. I mean, it's a huge, people have been talking about it for a couple of years now. It's very, very popular. I haven't seen it yet. I have to share the television. I only get,
okay. Well,
I have a minority vote out of 2. Okay. Let's just put it that way. Let me see. Diffuse gifted 20 America's Untold Stories memberships. Thank you very much. Scott Bimbo is back. He's back. All of our cards got hacked. Stay safe, Mark. Hope. Eric is staying warm. I'm trying to, and Scott Bimbo's a new member again. Thank you. Pew Pew gifted another 20 America's Untold Stories memberships, which we deeply appreciate. It's great to see you here, Pew Pew, as always. Pew Pew is a great donator of memberships. Sean Lucan also gifted 10 America's Untold Stories memberships. We've got super stickers from Joseph Kane, from G. McGee, makes me think of Travis McGee, and another $4.99 from G. McGee. Thank you. Scott Bimbo saying Bob, Mr. Baseball, Bob Uecker passed away.
It's funny about Bob Uecker. They were showing Bob Costas interview with Bob Uecker. Uecker, of course, famously the announcer in Major League, the movie with Charlie Sheen and Tom, what's his face, the catcher, Berenson, which is kind of a cult film where Bob Euchre's announcing it. That people remember that. But Euchre was talking about meeting Charlie Sheen a couple of nights before the first day of shooting, and Charlie Sheen was a guy who plays the pitcher in the movie, and he went out there and was throwing 85 into the high 80s and nailing it, and looked, according to Euchre, as good as any professional pitcher he had ever seen. He was quite shocked that Charlie Sheen had played high school baseball and was trying to become a major league ball player, but he is the star of the movie and looks like a legitimate pitcher and throws hard in the movie. But Euchre was saying that Euchre at one point, statistically, was known for having some of the worst statistics in the history of baseball. He was a catcher, multiple teams, Atlanta and Milwaukee. I think the Cubs. Greg Budell was telling me yesterday he once caught a Bob Euchre home run, and there was only 12 of them in history in right field at Wrigley Field. But anyway, he had played in like 60 games for Atlanta at one point, and he had 27 pass balls in like 60 games. And I didn't realize, I think he was catching for the knuckler, Gaylord Perry, who was throwing knuckleballs. Because I was going, how does this guy have 27 pass balls and 15 errors in half a season? And the pitcher was a knuckleball pitcher. So it makes some sense. But Euchre was famous for his self-denigrating humor, how bad he was, Eric.
Which I guess kept him going. Weren't you telling me one time that there's a very famous individual we've been talking about a lot who is a solid baseball player himself, and people don't realize it?
A very famous individual, solid baseball player himself.
Yeah, he's swearing in on Monday.
Oh, Trump, yeah. When in New York Academy, he was going to be drafted. It was at least rumored to be drafted by the Yankees. Yeah, that's interesting. He knows the game inside and out. And in fact, he would take people to Yankee Stadium and sit there with George Steinbrenner or Rudy Giuliani when Rudy was mayor, and really knows the game. There's another guy, what's his name? Escape from New York guy who is Goldie Hawn's husband.
Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell was a brilliant second baseman. His father owned a minor league or independent league team up in Portland. There's a documentary called The Battered Bastards of Baseball, featuring the rise of this team in the independent minor league division they were in up there. And Kurt Russell was another guy who could have played Major League Baseball, according to the people in the documentary. It's not particularly about Kurt Russell. It just turns out that Kurt Russell's father owned the team. It's a strange, interesting documentary if people are into Kurt Russell.
Yeah, I heard he got
baseball. Yeah, he had something. There was some knee injury or something. Yeah, something happened to Kurt Russell. He's got a cousin who did play for the Mets, if I remember correctly.
Huh? And owning the team, that would mean he gets a lot of practice. I mean, technically.
Yeah, no, but they were like a team of misfits. It's funny because I was watching Moneyball this week with Brad Pitt, and the movie really holds up. It's a really interesting film. If anybody wants to see a hot stove league baseball movie, might want to take a look at Moneyball.
All right. Here's a story that came down the pike. We, of course, can't say what was going on out loud. We have to code it because it's YouTube. But this individual here who really hates Trump and is, of course, a Pulitzer Prize winning cartoonist is arrested on prawn charges, because we talk about shrimps here because we can't say things out loud.
But can you say child shrimp?
Maybe, but it is a very interesting scenario. He's also historic because he, I guess, is the first person who's been charged for having AI generated bad pictures.
Oh, that's
which
weird.
I think is kind of a weird one. In fairness,
That's a weird one.
I do think that is weird. They had 134 videos of this material linked to an account owned and controlled by him, as well as the computer-generated artificial intelligence child material. Now,
well, it's going to be groundbreaking, precedent-setting court case, right? Or
it is, but that one, okay. What is your thoughts on that? Because obviously, I think it's despicable, disgusting, or whatever else.
I'm opposed to entrapment.
real.
I'm opposed to the entrapment of people where the police play a minor on the phone and on social media. I think that's entrapment. It doesn't mean they're not bad, that they're not bad, evil people. I just think that criminally, that's an entrapment situation where the person doesn't exist and it becomes a thought crime.
Well, it depends on how it's done. I think that it can be, but if somebody signs up as something into a known room and they are approached, I don't know in that case, because that's a person seeking them out. Now, if they go, ooh, we suspect such and such, and they, ping them out of nowhere, and they're like, hey, are you lonely? Then that's definitely entrapment. So I'm not sure.
I know, but there's no real victim. The victim's invented. The victim doesn't exist. Well, it's a 40-year-old woman who's portraying someone in a movie. Oh, that's one of his things, right?
Yeah, and notice what it is. On the left, we have making fun of MAGA, God. Because when MAGA says groomers, he's comparing that to Germans. Now, I wonder why he was offended by the term groomer.
Ooh, that's a good one, Hunley. That's a good
anyway,
one.
But okay, so using that theory, then I could assume that the AI generated material, with it not being a real person, isn't obviously as big of a concern as real material that involves real children, which is obviously horrible. So I'm confused.
Yeah, no, I'm saying I think the courts are going to go along with convicting someone on AI version of that, because they go along with the conviction of someone impersonating someone to entrap a criminal. So I think the court will extend it into AI as we get down further into the Orwellian future thought crimes of the Minority Report. That's where this is going. I mean,
well, what? Okay,
they take the most heinous crime. They then massage the civil liberties of it. Say, well, who could be in support of this guy? Of course, nobody. And then they spread it out over a period of years. It's going to go into other areas.
One variant of that I can see, and it's an odd one, but there's a situation with revenge porn, quote unquote, where high school girls, they're generating fake nudes of them. That I think you should be able to prosecute, because this person is being represented, even though it's technically not real. You're spreading something out on them that people could interpret as such, and I do find that to be abusive, and they probably should prosecute.
Yeah,
that.
no, I agree. I agree that it's different than the victim, portraying a phony person, right? That's a law enforcement officer portraying a person that doesn't exist. This is people creating something that looks like somebody to do harm. So there's an originator who's the criminal, let's say, or the defendant, creating an AI version of the victim for the purpose of inflicting damage to the victim. That's a pretty straight line, Eric. I agree. That the court, I think, will side on the part of the victim. I think it's different than the entrappers, though. The NBC guy who shows up with the pizza and that whole thing, and the person doesn't exist, so Dateline can have another episode. Not a big fan.
Chris Hansen.
I'm sorry. I don't think that's legal. I not legal, constitutional, but that's just my opinion. Again, this doesn't justify or back up the person doing this. I'm just talking strict constitutionality, and it's further abuse if this is allowed, because Lord knows they'll get away with that and they'll move it on down the line.
Yeah, well, that's some twisted stuff either way. Bass player 2011 FI. This is California time we're talking about here. So 1 year is more like 5 or 10, and they still have to build an Olympic park.
Yeah, it's a mess. I mean, nobody's going back there. These people who live there don't want to rebuild it. That's why I came up with the FEMA trailer, trying to head this off at the pass. But they countered this by saying the owners could now not even clear their own land. The owners are now guarding their land with their own guns. standing guard. They're being removed by the police from guarding their own property from robbers with their own legal firearms. We're into another area now where they want to get this land, just like in Hawaii. They're going to push them off, give them some sort of fair market value, quote unquote, as they determine it, or people are going to take the first offer that's coming down the pike, which is what that guy was saying on TMZ. And then they'll flip it as quickly as possible over and over and over again to make a little profit. In other words, like I said last week, if somebody offers these people $100,000 for their plot of land, they take the 100. That guy's going to turn around and sell the $100,000 thing that he laid out for 150, and he'll make 50 grand. And they'll do that over and over and over again until the state moves in, because nobody's going to build. It's just going to be land flipping.
Do you know what the status is in Lanai? I honestly have lost track, and I haven't seen much.
I think the state has come in and is working there to seize and develop that property. The last time I looked, I haven't been following it as closely as this, but they have wanted to burn Malibu to the ground here since day one. They were never happy with Malibu. They have fought Malibu as a community, and Pacific Palisades a little less so, for decades, about public access to the beach, about housing codes, about a million other things trying to drive them crazy. And now, surprisingly, something has happened that allows them to start a utopian society from scratch, which is the wildfires.
Yeah, it's almost like it's almost like a Butler Farm show where you just kind of just let things happen and
let things happen.
Hold.
Yeah, I mean, there's people saying that it's arson. There are people saying it was, accidental fires. There's all kinds of rumors as to how they started. There's videos of these kids running away in Pacific Palisades. This fire started right by them. There's guys with butane torches being arrested. I don't think any of that is ever going to be decided and figured out. There's no will to do that, to go after some homeless guy who started a fire. Their will is to seize and develop that land once the dust settles. Once the musical chairs, as I could see it, ends, the music stops, and that is the real estate flipping of the pieces of land, the state will come in and then pay the last guy standing for the land. Because, I mean, they will block anybody developing it. It would take an enormous amount of political energy, financial energy, bank money, developing lumber. There's no school. I mean, there's no infrastructure. I mean, it's an absurd task.
Yeah.
But that being said, I'm going back there tomorrow, so I'll see what it looks like when I get there.
All right. Well, let's see. We haven't seen the worst for LA. When the rain comes, landslides will impact access like roads. Yeah.
That is true. And the Olympic thing, which is what Karen Bass is worried about, may be in flux, because I think Trump can influence what city the Olympics go to or not go to. So I think they've got a federal problem on their hands, Newsom and Karen Bass. They have no friend in the White House any longer. In fact, they've got a brutal arch enemy in the White House who despises every single thing they represent as politicians. That's a tough road to hoe.
And that would be great. I mean, he has every reason to say there's no way they can get done in time. He's a real estate guy. He knows how long it takes to develop. And California's as bad or worse than New York, I'm sure.
Hey, just move it to Idaho. I mean, move it to Idaho, and everybody calls it a day.
Or something, sure. Yeah. Or Arizona. A lot gets moved to Arizona. One hot ass Olympics, but yeah.
Well, it's indoors. You got that stadium with a roof over there in Phoenix,
Okay, well, I'm thinking like in terms of the marathons, which are outdoors.
Oh, well.
A lot of other events.
Yeah.
Let's see. Brian D said, "Thank you for today's show. I know it's as tough as Mark is living out of a suitcase. You two are awesome. Mark, ever meet Bob Uecker? R.I.P. Uecker."
No, I never have. Like I said, I was never really a fan of Bob Uecker, simply because he was never a great player, and he was not a Dodger, and he was in the Midwest, so it's not really a guy I ever crossed paths with.
Oh God, this is right. I forgot this. Maisie actually asked Pam Bondi if she abused anybody. She's asking all of them now.
Okay, like that's what I was kind of getting at, because it didn't make any sense that she would ask him this question.
Yeah,
she's just a nut. Then she's just a whack job.
One of the dumbest people. I mean, her questions are so dumb. And then she's asking, Hegseth about his drinking problem. Now, I don't know if she has a speech impediment, but she honestly sounds drunk when she's asking him about drinking. It's wild.
Well, it looks like she's reading these questions that her staff wrote for the first time. That was my takeaway. Have you ever? And she's like reading it like she's never read it before.
Yeah.
A lot of these people are just run by their staffs, and they're just figureheads, They're like separate little mini states, a lot of these senatorial offices.
I agree, but who was worse, her or Feinstein at the end? I mean, I just wonder.
Oh yeah, well, she's not even at the end, the Hawaiian chick. This is her peak years.
That's why
she has been. I think Bongino calls her the dumbest person in the Senate.
She's astounding. I mean, she's
astoundingly stupid. Astoundingly stupid.
Just like, whoa. Oh my God. I don't know how. Justin wants to know, did either of you hear about the cache of police and EMS gear found with weapons and explosives in Chicago this week?
I heard it briefly, but the people who stole the 3 armored personnel carriers with machine gun turrets out of the Tustin Armory outside of LA was a much more scary story to me. I don't know how they got these armored Humvees out of there, but they stole 3 of them, rolled them out, and they've got machine gun mounted things on the top. And they have gotten 1 back, Eric, and 2 are still driving around LA.
Well, that's, I hate to say, often a weak point in security in the U.S. Not all National Guard armories are known for their stellar security. An active duty military base is a bit more locked down.
Right. This was an armory in Tustin, yeah.
And I think people.
But where do you go with this thing? I mean, what do you sell it on eBay? I mean, where do you go?
Dude, I don't know. I mean, well, you have crazy people in California, like the Hollywood, robbers that I think Heat was based on partly, who get machine guns and everything else.
Those are real pros,
Well, there's nothing saying that you can't have. Never mind. I don't want to give ideas.
No, don't give many ideas.
Yeah, I never mind anything I said. Just stay home. Be good. Mean Gene in Florida reading chokeholds now because of AUS.
Yeah, chokeholds is great. Paul Blue and Jim DiEugenio and a couple other lawyers. I don't really know the others, but those 2 guys I know. Yeah, I mean, I think the premise of the book is there's 8 and specific, maybe 12 chokeholds that are undeniable argument-wise against the Warren Commission report that the book covers really easily. It's almost like a way to dispute the Warren Commission at a dinner party book.
David March said, if you want to see Schiff act like a human being, watch the Lee Zeldin hearing. He basically endorsed Zeldin.
Yeah. I know. That's what I was thinking about. I saw that. That's why I said I think Schiff is just like, all right, whatever. Let's get this over with. That's what I thought, David. I saw that one, and I went, Schiff is he's either like, I don't give a shit anymore. I'm a senator. I'll be here the rest of my life, and let's get this over with.
And speaking of David, I think he was on a friend of mine, Steph the Alter Nerd, who seems to have a political show now. And David March knows a lot about Canadian politics. So I don't know if he's doing shows of his own.
Trudeau's still the prime minister, Eric. And it's like Generalissimo Franco. When will Trudeau actually step down?
I don't know. Pirate Ken wants to know if LBJ involved himself in the JFK murder. Does his thread connect only through the Billie Saul Estes affair? If not, then where? Some say it was well connected to George Bush or anyone else. Come to mind. Your thoughts?
Pirate Ken, have you ever seen the channel Pirate Ken?
Yeah,
there's a 250,000 people who've watched. Pirate Ken, there's a 250,000 people who've watched our LBJ episodes. I think you might want to take a look at that.
We have a two-parter that goes deeply into LBJ.
Thanks for the donation, Pirate Ken. But yeah, I mean, you might want to look at that. I think your head might explode. No, I just wanted to address this thing because how ill-prepared Alex Jones was for this guy. It was kind of like, you know, when Tucker had that historian, the greatest historian on attacking Churchill and backing the Yahtzees. It was that kind of level stuff. I mean, I scratched my head over what Alex Jones was thinking about this. And, you know, Jones knows a lot of these people who are Texans and, you know, the circle around Billie Saul Estes and the circle around LBJ and some of the other things. I just didn't believe the tape was real.
Right. Now, in defense of the grandson, I believe that there is a tape. And I believe it's his grandfather, and the grandson may have been taken in by the tapes, thinking, "Oh my God, this is what that really is."
If it was recent, but the reality of it is, he goes into great detail that he's been shopping these tapes for 8 years, and that Trump has listened to them, Don Jr. has listened to them, Paxton, the Attorney General, has listened to them. The former head of the Republican National Committee, I forget her name, who was the previous one, listened to them. Apparently, nobody is commenting after listening to them. Ronna McDaniel.
Yeah.
McDaniel, right. Yeah. He drops a lot of names of people who he's claiming have listened to these tapes and by default are endorsing them. I don't know if he just mailed them the tapes or discussed it with them. It's hard to tell by the interview how much the people he's mentioning have any connection to these tapes. That one threw me off. Then buying the ticket to talk to Trump about vaccines, that he had a conversation with Trump about vaccines.
That I think was the biggest tell, because Alex Jones even said, Trump said what? And he goes, "Oh, well, I can't get." No.
Bro.
That one bothered me. I was just going to bring that up. Yes, he did say that. That whole thing, and even Alex Jones, I noticed, was going, Trump said what? Because, I mean, Trump has been behind the vaccines and never wavered, ever. No matter what people try to say. He's that's the thing. Soul Doggy, Ohio voter here. Turnout is deep state. Stays in office by sending
you got
right, Pat. His district is blue.
Take into account the family that this guy's coming from, Eric.
Oh, God. Turner voted against the Mayorkas impeachment, 1 of 4 GOP. Well, no wonder.
Wow.
So apparently the signs were there.
Well, he's from Ohio, Eric? Is that what that guy said?
Yeah. Turner is from Ohio Johnson pulled off of the intelligence. I did not know he voted for against the impeachment of Mayorkas.
Wow.
Outright mental defective is a new member. Thank you. David Parsons.
OMD, as he calls himself.
My father and I used to have about 20 VIN plates for one. What? Something bank.
Just tank with BSE's business. That's a weird one. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's hard to discern. Yeah.
Fletcher boy.
In the Enigma machine.
It's all Trump's fault. Gavin Newsom. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, he's in a tight spot. He's bleeding politically. He's hemorrhaging blood. He still has to criticize Trump for his base, and he still has to get Trump to come in and save him. This is a political Harry Carey. I mean, I don't feel sorry for him, but he is in an incredible tightrope walk, saying, how dare Trump attach any sort of requirements for the money? That's outrageous. No, they should just give them billions of dollars and let them figure out how to give it to the indigenous people first. Give me a break.
Yeah. Oh, this question reminds me of something I just saw earlier. But when is Bass's next trip to Cuba? Well, she's not in Cuba.
That's a good question.
You know where she is, though, right?
What?
She went to Paris.
Oh, yeah, she went for the Olympics. I mean, she went to Paris twice. She went home and came back.
She's busy. Yeah, she's there. She's busy.
Eric, she has become the most traveling mayor in the history of Los Angeles. And people on the media side in LA have said, not me, but others have said, she's in the wrong job for what she wants to do politically. That, when she was in a congressional seat, she used to go on these congressional junkets to all these places. This is, by its nature, a pothole job, garbage collection job. And if you're not interested in that, which is what Rick Caruso was interested in, you shouldn't have taken this job. She keeps getting all bent out of shape when people call her out for doing stuff that has nothing to do with the city of Los Angeles. That's why she's obsessed with the Olympics. The Olympics goes right into her global wheelhouse, where she could meet with heads of state and do all this ambassadorial crap, which is really what she wants to do. This running of a city is annoying to her, Eric. This is something Rick Caruso or a Trump person would love to do. In fact, there have been previous mayors from that world. If you feel like building and repairing and infrastructure and stuff like that is your bailiwick, being the mayor of an urban center is fun. It's fun, but not for her.
It's kind of funny because she's sort of going against the norm on that, because typically Democrats love whatever power they have, be a dog catcher all the way up, so much that they're going to cling to it and they're never going to leave, and they'll hold and wield whatever it is. She's kind of acting like the ones that are like, she's too good for this job.
She has acted like she's too good for this job since day one. In fact, she's acted like she doesn't want the job. The job's beneath her. I have to go to Paris this week. They're having an Olympics. We got the World Cup coming. Try to muzzle her way in there with the Dodgers. And she doesn't even know a Dodger game from a dodgeball game. And she's the wrong person for the wrong job at the wrong time. And the sooner she gets out, the better. But, look at Adams in New York. Adams was a beat cop. He was on the trains. He worked his way up. He came from New York. He was NYPD. He's born in the city. He didn't go to Cuba 50 times. He didn't fight with the revolutionaries. This chick is unbelievable, Karen Bass.
You know who I think would actually enjoy being a mayor too?
Who?
Even though it's way above this, Trump. I think Trump would have loved
that's why I mentioned Trump.
That's why I mentioned
Yeah. Rick Caruso is considered a Trumpian figure in LA. He's built all the shopping malls. He's built all these different things. He's a mini Trump in LA, and I think she stole the election from him with the 3-week count until she finally had enough votes to defeat him. He went to bed election night with a substantial lead, and as the weeks went on, the lead evaporated, and Rick Caruso is not happy about it now.
Yeah, you should start a support group with Steve. Who's the other guy? We had him on here.
Oh, Steve Cooley.
Steve Cooley. Build a little club.
Well, we'll see what Hochman does, because Hochman is now tasked with prosecuting these people. And some of these people that he has apprehended are psychotic homeless people. Now, what do? You put them on trial and waste all the city's money for a psychotic homeless person who started a fire while he was cooking meth? That could be embarrassing.
Give them a home. Just test bars. Pablo Papano, but the state's bankruptcy may be feds. I don't know. Boo Boo Bing Bang said, hey guys, great to be watching you live again after my re-education camp visit in New Zealand. Keep up the good work. Heading to LA next week. Looks like lots of land for sale coming up.
Well, it's not lots of land, but it's land you can't really do anything with because of the zoning and the codes that these maniacs have created. It would take possibly, I just want to give you an example. To take a new home before this, and this is from builders who build homes, to get hooked up to LADWP, right? The electric company, takes 2 years. To get a new home hooked up to the grid takes 2 years. Now they could fast track this stuff, but I'm just using the normal. There's a guy who lost 15 of the 22 homes he designed, not that he owned them, he built them and sold them. 15 of the 22 are gone, and he was talking about how much he had to go through to build those 22 homes. Now, unless this guy is a masochist, I don't know why he would get involved in this again.
I don't know. I'm not sure on that. John McGill saying that you guys should make merch with some of Mark's other quotes. I'd like to get a "You don't know who to root for" t-shirt.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you don't. I don't know about the shirt, but sometimes you don't know who to root for in this case. Obviously, these two people are sewn together at the hip now, Bass and Newsom. Newsom trying to get in, trying to get out. It's almost like he's trying to run out the clock at this time, but he can't leave this legacy lingering because he's going to have 4 years or 3 years until running for president. So he doesn't want to leave with this stuff lingering. Yet the clock is running out on Newsom to get out because he's termed out. He is in an incredibly politically precarious position, and it's wonderful to watch. Really wonderful to watch. And Trump is making him twist in the wind. Really making him twist. He wants to be with Trump in the woods or at the site of the disaster, seen with the president, looking cooperative. And then as soon as Trump leaves, he can stab him in the back and undermine him and go on to have a press conference to his psycho people. But he needs that photo op, and Trump ain't giving it to him. It's really interesting. Really interesting.
Hold strong, Donald.
Yeah. Yep.
What would be even better?
I think he should box him out and just have, him, Rick Caruso, and Karen Barger.
Exactly.
Forget about Newsom. Exactly. Yes. Don't even go with these local officials. You're the president of all 50 states, Eric, right?
That would just be hilarious if he just set up a meeting and just flew down there unannounced and boom, meets up with them. Cameras go on. Yes, I'm here in California with the supervisor, blah, 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 blah. And Gavin Newsom would be scrambling.
He would scramble to get there, bro. He would jump in the Batmobile and race 150 miles an hour to get to that press conference and just make believe he was walking by.
Have a helicopter following Newsom. Will Newsom get there in time?
It is doable because could land at LAX and literally come on the west side on the PCH and get to where he wants to get to pretty damn quickly from LAX. So I think Newsom has thought of this, and I think he's got like a station point where he's going to hang out until he finds out if Trump is coming or not coming. I mean, he is in a tough spot, Eric. He is in a tough spot.
Oh, God. Or J.D. Vance could come down, too, and that would throw everything into the works.
That would throw a monkey wrench in everything, J.D. Vance. I mean, look, Kamala Harris has a home in Brentwood where she's going to live now. I mean, that's where she's going.
Apparently Brentwood. She's shopping. No, apparently she's shopping in New York, according to.
She's going to get out. She's going to get out. Yeah, she's going to bail. She's going to sell her home. Or move to New York. Absolutely. She's not going to stay there. Nobody wants to stay there. I mean, look, Mel Gibson is hoping there's an ambassadorial residence, so he could move to D.C.
Well, he's got his Costa Rica spread, right?
Right. Well, Stallone famously, like Kim Kardashian, was fined for using 250,000 gallons of water above the drought limit during the drought. But you could pay a fine for that water use, and the money could go to other causes, which is what he did.
All right. David Parsons says, I don't know how to say anhydrous ammonia tank at Billie saw that.
Yeah, okay. That is true. He was involved in the ammonia business in these tanks that he was selling, flipping, swindling, con manning. I mean, you'd have to know, if you watch the episode that we did on Billie Saul, I get into some of the weeds on the flipping and selling and swindle. But he had so many swindles, it's hard to just explain it to the layman at this, on this show, at this format.
It was fun hearing his grandson try to explain his cotton shares swindling and saying that well, it wasn't really illegal per se. And it's like, well, he did sort of get locked up, dude. So I'm thinking it might have been illegal.
9 counts. He was acquitted. If I remember the first case, he was acquitted on 9, convicted on like 4 or 5 or 3. And sentenced to 15 years in Leavenworth. And then everybody came in and bought up his property. All these other weasels, Texas weasels, like divided up his empire so quickly, which the kid mentions. But when he mentions Bar McClellan, I just thought, oh boy, he knows Bar McClellan. And it is what it is. Bar McClellan, I believe, is another deep state operative, whatever his agenda is. Again, I believe LBJ was deeply, deeply involved in the assassination. That doesn't mean everybody who writes everything about it is correct, like Roger Stone and using crib notes of Barr McClellan. I mean, you know, there are people, if you look at Robert Caro's books, if you look at Phil Nelson's, which is Mastermind of the Assassination, that's the only one you really need to read to involve yourself with the LBJ level of involvement in the assassination. Read Philip Nelson's book, Mastermind of the Assassination.
Whom we have spoken to, and that is on the channel if you guys want to look it up. Philip Nelson, rest in peace. Yeah. Darren Cox, a few bucks to support the channel. Didn't want to be a freeloader because I know that annoys Mark.
I could care less. The reality of it is that once I heard that this guy had shopped these tapes for 8 years, here's Alex Jones with this world premiere of the 7-minute tape with Clifton Carter. And I thought, okay, well, technically he's right, Eric. It is a world premiere of it for his audience and for that. But I mean, then the guy goes out of his way to say, well, no, I've been shopping these for 8 years, Alex. I just haven't played them for you personally and your audience. You know, I mean, obviously this guy's looking for some sort of a book deal. The book that Eric put up, the French author, Billie Estes famously claimed that he was demanding $100,000 from that guy to be involved in the book. So he was obviously trying to parlay a lot of his involvement or pseudo or nearby involvement into money when he got out of prison. And I think this is part of it, this tape.
All right. Basil Beshkov said, possible Lee Sky Hearth Oswald Chuck on Monday. What?
Man, everyone's talking in code today.
I guess
wow.
So.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Lee Sky Harvard. Wow.
All right. Pirate Ken said, oops, you're right. I forgot. Oops. Didn't do my homework outs about LBJ. But living just outside D.C., we're preparing for the entrance of Trump. Cheers.
Yeah, Pirate Ken. Way to go, bro. Yeah, I mean, once you get some time, I think you personally, Pirate Ken, as everyone knows, would enjoy that episode because of your statement about the curiosity. It's shocking to a lot of people who aren't hip to it. It's not shocking to people who are hip to it, you know, about LBJ. Like other people from Texas have told us that he was the #1 suspect from day one among Texans.
I think I'm going to put together a playlist of LBJ and his cronies with the 3 LBJ episodes: Malcolm Wallace, Bobby Baker, and
I mean, he ran a crime family. He was a gangster, and you know, he talks about this, Alex Jones, that LBJ was a gangster, and the gangsters extracted money and they did things different ways. The Henry Marshall thing, they tried to bribe Henry Marshall. He didn't take the bribe, and when you don't take the bribe, the next thing is the bullet. Or the gas pipe. Henry Marshall, LBJ gave them 2 options: either accept the bribe or we're going to have to go to Plan B. Apparently went to Plan B about 17 times, according to Billy Saul.
Yeah, and carbon monoxide.
Yeah, that was a weird one. The combination of shooting yourself in the chest with a rifle and using the pipe afterwards. Boy, that's a guy determined to leave the earth.
Yeah, and weren't there parallels in other people who died too? Anyway.
Yeah, including Mac Wallace. Mac Wallace meets his end down the road. Also, he had to be eliminated, Mac Wallace. He knew too much. But that being said, I've always believed the fingerprints, despite what Joan Mellon has said, I think the fingerprint is real on the boxes in the school book depository. Whether he was up there that day or before, I don't really know. But that print is real. That's been shown by experts to be a print of Mac Wallace. Doesn't mean he was up there shooting, although he could have been on the far side shooting down into Connolly. Somebody shot Connolly from up above at that angle, and it could have been Mac Wallace.
All right, Jenny's getting inky with it. Sounds like she's the wrong person for any job at any time.
No, I think she would make a good university professor on the history of Castro's Cuba. I'm serious. I mean, I could see that woman teaching a course at the community college or whatever school that would let her in.
How about Havana University? Have her teach in Cuba.
Havana U. because she was one of the gun runners and revolutionaries who were trained in various revolutionary techniques to overthrow governments. I mean, she's in the wrong job.
All right. Scott Bimbo said again, anhydrous ammonia. Gotcha. Thank you.
It's all about ammonia, Scott. It's all about ammonia.
And it stinks. Bring Chief Wahoo back.
Chief Wahoo McDaniel, or is that who was referring to?
Is that a reference to like baseball or something, like the Indians?
Well,
or?
I think it's the Atlanta Braves, or they have a well, they had the Atlanta Braves had Chief Nakahoma. I don't know what happened to Chief Nakahoma. A lot of this was attacked politically, but that might have been the Cleveland Indians who became the Guardians by political force. That particular name, Wahoo McDaniel. I'm just guessing. I wouldn't be on jeopardy with this answer, but I think that might be what he's talking about.
All right. Cat Mama said Trump just announced Pete has the votes. I heard that from multiple. That I think John Thune said he had the votes. It looked like, and so
what a bizarre. You're right, Eric. What a bizarre system. I mean, it's just a bizarre. Either you have the votes or you don't, and it's about whipping the votes. Really, it's about the whip of the votes and whipping them into shape beforehand. I mean, that's they apparently the Gates thing was unwhippable. And they said, we're not even going to expend political energy on this. We would have to beat people to death with political whips. But these other ones were on the edge. They were on the edge. The RFK one might be colorful.
It will be, but I think it's because of crossover. From what I'm seeing, though, Hexeth may be an exception now that you bring that up, because the Democrats were such over-the-top assholes that Republican senators that weren't going to vote for him now feel obligated because they've got to do it in solidarity because of the abuse from the other side of the aisle. So thank you, Democrats. They may have actually helped out, Pete Hexeth.
Well, a lot of these seats, apparently what Biden did was flood these government agencies with his cronies until Trump could replace them with the confirmed heads to do even more damage into the Trump early months of the administration. The guy is unending in his smooth transition of power, not movement. I mean, I've never seen anything like this.
The longest damn time between the election and it's so long. Everybody in the chat
it's so long. It's
Indians, by the way.
What's that? Was it Cleveland Indians?
Yeah, about the chief.
Yeah, Wahoo McDaniel. Yeah, thank you, dude. That was testing my memory. I barely remember that one.
Thank you, Pamela. All right, so we're going to wrap up here while Mark's microphone is still limping because we have more to talk about on Locals. We get to hang out. There's a private chat there. There are people who are waiting around for us to show up, and. What? Yeah. Every show we spend some time on Locals.
This Japanese ticket thing has become completely impossible. Apparently, the tickets for the Dodgers Cubs opener are by a lottery, and somehow you're supposed to enter a lottery to win tickets, and somehow get an airplane flight and hotel rooms while you're entering this lottery that I've abandoned, and I will be going to Glendale, Arizona, instead to see the Dodgers play both the White Sox and I believe Texas for some weekend spring training games. This Tokyo thing has become, by their own design, a complete debacle. I mean, it's just an impossible, and no one seems to be in charge. What a shit show. What a total shit show.
Well, at least it's a Chicago team they're playing.
Yeah, I mean, they share, for the people at home, they share the Glendale, Arizona facilities with the White Sox. Split it, so it's sometimes they're both there sharing alternate games.
All right. Well, we'll discuss it more in Locals. There's a link down in the description. If you guys want to come, check it out. You can be a member for free if you do want to pay and support us. We put up other material. The LBJ, well, now the timing on that's going to be interesting because of what's going on. Audio drama will be started or underway soon. And that will be another one to follow up with the Lee Harvey Oswald audio drama that is there exclusively for local supporters. However, there's benefits of being a free member, like watching the show with no ads. People say, hey, oh my God, the ads are killing me. You're killing me. Well, you can watch it on Locals ad-free, even after the fact.
They are just not aware of that, or what seems to be, they may not be aware of that.
They may not be. And over time, hopefully they'll hear this and check us out there. And we'll have a good time. So everybody, we'll see you over at Locals.